but he
I was
did the
gonna s-
round ones
Yeah, so, okay, so it's how much for the,
225.
for both?
for both of them.
So that's probably about the same size. He does it by the square foot. So your tables were about yay round. There's basically two.
And tell me again
Top.
how many coats you did, top and bottom? Did you do 3 coats on top and 2 on the bottom?
I don't know.
Oh, I thought
I
you
think it
did
comes out to
some.
about 15 or so.
Yeah, the
Square
top,
foot.
the top is different. He does 2 or 3 on the bottom.
So he just does it
He
that
did
way. I don't
two,
have to
yeah.
tell him.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can tell him to
I
do,
just said, put a Brian finish on it.
Okay.
you can tell
I
him
can do
that,
that.
and we'll get it. You can tell him if you want to have the bottom the same. You can tell him I want the bottom the same as the top. And he'll piss and moan and stuff, and he'll go, okay.
So are you gonna have it finished before assembly or after assembly?
Before.
Before.
And would you, since it's gonna be on stretchers, would you?
Yeah, do all your joinery.
First?
You do all your joinery, and that also helps him. So, the way this has to be done is it can't be sitting down like this and for him to spray it. So, if you have you've got 2 stretchers.
Well, I'll
said
bring
we-
that in next week.
Okay, so let's say she has 2 stretchers and they have, because it's veneered, she can put 3 dowels in it, or a dowel and screw the thing on if you want it to removable, which might not be a bad idea, so then it could be repairable later. In either case, there'd be, say, 3 holes going across here. So he can use those holes to put a dowel in or something and raise this thing off a table.
Okay.
And so he can, what he'd do is he'd shoot the bottom first, then he'd flip it over on the dowels and shoot the edges, then shoot the top. And then repeat the process.
For the final fitting of this to the stretcher, as big as it, how many dowels do you need across there?
3.
All right.
Because here's the deal, is if you're putting 3 across here, and this is veneered, so you don't have expansion.
Okay.
So you can have 3 dowels, and what's really gonna hold this thing is the glue joint. If you're putting a dowel in here and screws in the other, you still only need 2 screws. The dowel is just for location, and that's enough to hold this thing.
Oh, so you're making it so you can take it off.
Yeah. But if you decide to glue it on, then you do that. And if you're gonna glue it on, where you have your dowels, just put a piece of blue tape across there. Make sure it's smaller than your, obviously smaller than your stretcher. And that way he knows that he's not gonna be spraying that.
Okay.
You can leave the hole exposed for the dowels,
Uh-huh.
so you can put something in there.
So then he'd essentially just be making a little table and painting. But how would he do the other side? I see that you could do that for the top,
Mhm.
but how would he then paint the bottom?
Do the bottom first.
No, you do this first,
Okay.
then you flip it over.
So you would do the bottom with it resting on the table.
Yeah, just
Got it.
sitting, yeah,
Well,
what
you
he'd
could
do is
put
he
it on
put,
anything.
he puts it on a couple coffee cans.
Yeah.
What
So
kind of
it's-
coffee?
Folgers, the, you know, the
And
one-
I think he
red
said
ones?
U-Band.
Is it U-Band?
I think he's doing U-Band now.
He may have switched, yeah. So he puts it on a couple of coffee cans,
Okay.
and then he sprays the top, so that any overspray
Well-
doesn't, coagulate down on the surface.
If I were to buy a spray gun and do it, would
Mhm.
the difference really be so great? Is it that hard, or?
No, it's not that hard. You have to have a good spray gun.
Yeah, $500, right?
Okay, so for $500, you could have this done twice. How often are you gonna use it? The real thing is the finish. He's using a catalyzed finish, which you can buy. I'm not sure the quantity you can buy it in, so you might have to buy a gallon or 5 gallons, which takes about a quart to do. And it's got a shelf life, because it's catalyzed finish. So then you throw the rest of the stuff away. Then the other thing is, he's doing it in a spray booth, so there's no dust at all. So if,
Really very, very good.
yeah, so if you're gonna do that kind of finish, it doesn't pay. I've sprayed finishes before, for commercial jobs I've done, and they come out pretty good. His are better, mine was cheaper. but yeah, you get, you know,
What's Henry's last name?
Craft.
it's 6 of one, half dozen of another.
So you suggested wetting, you know, taking a damp towel and running it over the surface and then sanding again.
Yeah.
Would you run the damp towel over the surface when you're doing 180 and then sand it with 220? And that be your final,
Sure.
or does it matter?
Sure, that's fine.
Okay,
Or you could do 220 and then
do 220
get
again.
everything, you know, get it down to where you
Okay.
think it's fine,
Okay.
and then wipe it, and
And
then do it
220
one more time.
Okay. When you're going this direction now?
Yep,
Okay.
yep. It'll just make it nice, and then after you've got it all done, then come in and do your edges. Do it after your,
With 220?
yep, or
Okay.
worn out 220.
Okay,
Just to take the sharpness out.
Take the sharpness out, yeah.
okay.
It's beautiful.
Thank you.
Yep, it's gonna look good.
Kathleen, did you talk about maybe changing the base fairway?
It's coming in next week. The old base and the new table.
Seems to me it needs a little something to help make top look a little heavier. I was curious what.
It's a pretty chunky base, if that's what it, I said it's a really chunky looking base.
So, we're gonna, we'll
Yeah.
transition into Kent's then,
Yeah.
because Kent's got a relatively thin top for the base. And matter of fact, we're just in transition into it. If that works, because it's floating. If the top wasn't floating, then it would look like the top is too thin. But if you float it, it looks like it's supposed to be light.
I couldn't find thick enough,
Oh,
Baltic
you're
birch.
pulling the old,
so.
the old gym trick. Oh yeah, that's all the wood I had, and I'm not gonna
No.
get any more.
But I didn't want to make my own core, I was too lazy to do that, and I couldn't find, one of the Baltic birch was too thick and the other was too narrow, so that's, because I know that it's a narrow top.
Yeah, you want, the top's not attached, so.
No.
Okay, so let's